Texas in the 1970s didn't move fast. It rolled along like a two-lane highway in the summer, hot, dusty, and full of soul. There were no GPS, no internet, no noise, just dirt roads, AM radios, and the soft hum of a box fan. Life was tougher, slower, better in ways we didn't realize. If you grew up in Texas back then, you didn't just live through a decade, you became part of it. So here are 15 memories you'll only understand if you grew up in 1970s Texas. Let's see how many still live inside you. Pickup trucks with steel guts and no apologies. Back in the 1970s, a Texas pickup wasn't just a vehicle, it was a statement. They were loud, stiff, all muscle. No power steering, no air conditioning, no luxury. Just a roaring V8 engine, a bench seat, and windows you crank by hand. You didn't baby a truck, you used it to haul hay, pick up lumber, drive into town covered in dust. The tailgate doubled as a bench at football games or a stage at the county fair. Kids rode in the back, no seatbelts, just laughter and dirt in their hair. You'd pile in after church, boots scraping metal, wind in your face as the open road rolled ahead. Today's trucks are quiet, smooth, filled with tech. But back then, your truck didn't just get you somewhere, it made you feel like you belonged to Texas. Live music in honky-tonks and dance halls. On weekend nights, the sound of guitars and fiddles floated through small Texas towns. Every town had a honky-tonk or a dance hall. Inside those wood-paneled walls, the whole place came alive. You didn't dress to impress, you dressed to dance. Polished boots, shirt tucked in, maybe some cologne, maybe not. Local bands played George Jones, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson. The floor shook with two-stepping and slow dancing, boots sliding across sawdust. No one filmed the moment. They were the moment. Couples fell in love under dim lights. Fights broke out. Songs ended with hollers and whistles. And when they played your song, you dropped everything and hit the floor. Those places aren't just closed now, they've been replaced by parking lots, chain stores, and silence. AM radio that sounded like home. Before music came from streaming apps, it came from a single speaker in the kitchen or on a dusty truck dashboard. You turned the knob until the static faded, and there it was, a familiar voice that sounded like your neighbor. He told bad jokes, read out birthdays, played nothing but golden country and old-school rock and roll, farm reports, lost dog announcements, church picnic reminders. It was local, personal, yours. At night, you'd lay in bed with the radio low. The signal faded in and out, but the music stayed warm, comforting, full of soul. Today, everything's a playlist. But back then, AM radio, it felt like Texas. Drive-ins, diners, and after-school milkshakes. If you grew up in 1970s Texas, you know what a real burger tasted like. Greasy, hot, wrapped in wax paper. Served with crinkle-cut fries and a chocolate shake so cold it gave you brain freeze. Every town had a diner or drive-in. Teenagers gathered there after school. You didn't order through an app. You slid into a booth, fed quarters into the jukebox, and hoped your song played before your food came. Car hops rolled by on skates. Menus were printed, not glowing. And $5 bought you a meal and change for the arcade next door. Those places were more than restaurants. They were where friendships started. Secrets were told. First kisses happened. Most of them are gone now, but if you ever sat on a red vinyl stool with a cold Coke and a full heart, you remember. School days with paddle threats and paper cuts. School in the 1970s was simple and strict. You brought your lunch in a metal box with a cartoon on it. Your teacher had a name like Mrs. Hensley, and she did not tolerate nonsense. You stood for the pledge, got gold stars for good behavior. And if you acted up, there was a wooden paddle behind the desk and your parents didn't argue about it. Classrooms smelled like chalk and floor polish. You wrote in cursive. You memorized multiplication tables. You learned to respect authority. There were no iPads, no Google Docs, just pencils, paper, and that overhead projector with the bulb that never worked quite right. And when the bell rang, you ran outside like your life depended on it. Friday night football that ruled the town. Every Friday night in the fall, Texas towns lit up like county fairs. Not for concerts, not for parades, for high school football. The stadium lights buzzed. The marching band played the fight song. You sat on cold bleachers beside your entire town, parents, teachers, classmates, cousins. The players weren't stars. They were kids you knew. The quarterback worked at the feed store. The linebacker sat behind you in math. Cheerleaders waved pom-poms. Fans shouted at the refs. And when your team scored, it felt like everybody won. You didn't watch a replay later. You were there, screaming, wrapped in a blanket, holding a hot cocoa. And win or lose, when the final whistle blew, the entire town headed out to eat together like family. Watching cartoons that only came once a week. If you missed your Saturday morning cartoons in the 1970s, you missed them. There was no pause, no rewind, no streaming later. You had one shot. You'd wake up early in your pajamas, pour a bowl of cereal that turned the milk neon, and park yourself in front of the big wooden television. Looney Tunes, the Jetsons, Super Friends, commercials for toys you'd beg for and probably never get. And by noon, it was over. Cartoons disappeared, and the station switched to baseball or church programming. Today, kids can watch anything, anytime. But back then, waiting for your favorite show made it matter so much more. County fairs that felt like the center of the universe. The county fair wasn't just an event, it was everything. You'd wait all year for it. Ferris wheel lights glowing against the Texas sky. The smell of funnel cakes and livestock swirling together. Kids ran wild with corn dogs in hand. Teenagers flirted by the ring toss. Grandparents watched proudly as blue ribbons were handed out for pies and steers. There was mud, sweat, laughter, music echoing from the rodeo arena. You might leave with a goldfish in a plastic bag, or lose your whole allowance on a rigged game. Fairs today try to copy that magic. But in the 1970s, it was real, unfiltered, pure Texas. Sears catalog shopping and back-to-school excitement. Before online shopping, there was the Sears catalog, and when it arrived, it was a big deal, thick as a phone book, heavy as a Bible. Kids flipped straight to the toy section. Moms checked appliances. Back-to-school shopping meant circling your dream clothes with a pen. You'd order your new Levi's and wait weeks for the box to show up. And when it did, that new clothes smell hit you like magic. Nothing felt cooler than walking into school with fresh Wranglers and sneakers so white, they almost glowed even if they were covered in dust by lunchtime. Today, we click and get next-day delivery. But back then, half the fun was the waiting. Cassette tapes, mixtapes, and portable music magic. In the 1970s, music wasn't something you streamed, it was something you carried, something you made. Cassette tapes changed everything. You'd sit by the radio with your finger on the record button waiting for your favorite song to play. You made mixtapes for your best friend, your crush, or just for yourself. Every track had a reason. Every side told a story. And if you were lucky enough to own a Walkman by the end of the decade, you had your own private universe. No one else needed to hear what you loved. It was just you, your headphones, and the road ahead. And when the tape got tangled, you didn't panic. You grabbed a pencil and fixed it yourself. Because that's what Texans did. Hands-on, no fuss. Quiet evenings and the feeling of enough. Evenings in 1970s Texas didn't end with notifications. They ended with stillness. The house went quiet after dinner. Maybe the television stayed on. Maybe the radio. But mostly you heard the sound of dishes drying in the rack, the squeak of a screen door, the creak of a porch swing. You'd sit outside, feel the heat rise off the ground, talk with your folks, and watch the sky fade from orange to deep blue to black. No one reached for a phone. No one posted about it. You just were. And in that silence, you felt something that's hard to feel now. Contentment. The sense that just for a moment, everything was exactly where it should be. Phones with long cords and real conversations. In the 1970s, you couldn't text. You picked up the phone and hoped they were home. Phones were attached to the wall, and if you were lucky, the cord stretched far enough into the hallway for a little bit of privacy. You whispered, so no one overheard you talking about your crush or your weekend plans. There was no caller ID. Every ring was a mystery. If someone else was using the phone, you had to wait or yell, "Get off the line." Conversations weren't rushed. You didn't multitask. You talked and you listened. That kind of connection, it doesn't fit in your pocket anymore. Chores that taught you more than school ever did. In the 1970s, kids didn't get allowances for just existing. You worked for it. You mowed lawns with push mowers that fought back, washed cars with cold hoses and rough sponges, raked leaves, took out the trash, scrubbed the bathtub with Comet, not lavender-scented foam. Your parents didn't praise you for doing it. They expected it. And somehow that stuck with you. You learned that effort mattered, that pride didn't come from likes or follows, but from sweat. And even if you hated it back then, you carry it now. In your work ethic, in your values, in your Texas grit. Fireworks you lit yourself and probably shouldn't have. Fireworks in the 1970s were a hands-on experience. Stands popped up on the side of the road. You begged your parents to stop. And if they said yes, you walked away with Roman candles, bottle rockets, sparklers, and zero supervision. No warning labels, no apps, just a paper bag and a wild imagination. You lit fuses with cigarette lighters, launched bottle rockets from Coke bottles, nearly blew off your thumb more than once. On the 4th of July, neighborhoods turned into war zones of color and smoke. It was dangerous. It was dumb. It was perfect. Today, fireworks are tightly controlled. But back then, it was about learning when to run and when not to light it in your hand. Houses that smelled like coffee, bacon, and burnt toast. Homes in the 1970s weren't minimal. They weren't trendy. They were lived in. Wood-paneled walls. Orange shag carpets, linoleum floors, a couch that weighed 300 pounds, curtains that hadn't changed since 1962. And the smells, those stayed with you. Mornings started with bacon frying, black coffee percolating, and toast that always came out a little too dark. In winter, a space heater hummed in the corner, glowing red. In summer, every fan pointed toward one room. Saturdays smelled like pine sol and lemon polish. Sundays like pot roast in a crock pot. And the fridge? Always full of leftovers no one trusted, but no one dared throw away. It wasn't perfect, but it was warm, and it was home. If you grew up in 1970s Texas, you remember more than just objects and places. You remember a feeling, one that's hard to describe, but impossible to forget. The weight of the heat, the joy of earning something, the taste of Dr. Pepper in a glass bottle on a hot afternoon, the sound of cicadas outside your window as you drifted off to sleep. That Texas is gone. But the memories? They're still here. They live in the way you fix things instead of replacing them, in how you treat strangers like neighbors, in the quiet pride you carry steady and earned. So, if even one of these memories brought something back, a sound, a smell, a feeling, then you didn't just grow up in Texas. Texas grew up in you. Tell us in the comments which memory hit you the hardest, and hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Because the past isn't gone, it's just waiting to be remembered.